And I think that will give the kids a visual of exactly what happened. Those lives were snuffed out before their time. And we won't leave them there, though, because that's a pretty hopeless feeling. The hope is that there was survivors. You know, think about when you hear about a car accident, what's the first question on your mind? Were there any survivors? And for the Jewish people, the miracle is there were survivors. And every survivor story I've ever heard has a miracle in it, every single one. And so our last thing that we'll show the kids is just that these survivors didn't stop there. They had children and grandchildren who are touching the communities today, who are coaches and Girl Scout leaders and teachers and attorneys and all kinds of things that add to our lives as Americans. So we hope to have that on the road. We've located a trailer. We're writing some grants. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Money's a funny thing right now, but you know what? There are people out there that have money that want to see good things like this come into the schools to encourage our kids, and our kids need it. And they don't just need it because of the educational value. They need it because they need to feel compassion. There's a lot of kids that are in a war zone right here in the USA, and maybe it's their moms and their dads are addicted to crack cocaine. Maybe it's they're addicted to, going to the boat to gamble. Maybe they're addicted to pornography, but not all kids in our children's classrooms have a very good life, and you only have to visit a few schools to see it, and if there's any teachers in the room, you know it. So we're hoping that they can feel compassion and that they'll understand these old stories and be able to relate them to some stories of kids that maybe sit next to them. You never know. You never know what will happen in a kid's life. So I think that's my last slide, and thank you so much for having me. Does anybody have any questions about what I've been doing? And the 14th one is almost finished, about half, maybe a little over half done. And we'll probably have a couple dozen by the end of this year. I really wasn't planning on making this a full-time job, I have to tell you. My original goal was just to get the 3 books done, the 3 Esthers. And then I was asked to get, a liberator story or 2 told. And then I couldn't leave out the righteous Gentiles because those stories are so powerful that some Christians were brave enough to step forward. And, I've had to ask myself many times as I meet these people and learn to love them and admire what they've done, would I have helped a Jewish family? I don't know if I would have or not. You don't know. You don't know that kind of fear. We have never known that kind of fear in this country. So now I'm just opening it up. The book that's almost finished is written by a student out in Massachusetts. We have a project going in Colorado. The educators here feel that kids are going to think about this period of history in a very real way when they learn that these people lived in Illinois. And I think it does make it real. It made it real for me. So would the kids in Colorado feel the same way? I'm sure. Would the kids in Massachusetts and all 50 states. In Illinois, right after Skokie, right after that situation, where they marched and tried to say that it wasn't true, that it didn't happen, we became the first state to mandate Holocaust education. But they really didn't follow up with bringing a good curriculum into the schools. And teachers are very busy people, if you know them. Pastors and teachers, I always take my hat off to both, because they're very busy people, and to develop curriculum is difficult. So they've been grabbing this book or that book and using it to fulfill the mandate. But it would be really nice if they had something that was structured, that they were able to help teach the kids. And I think teaching them about the ones that live right here is a very good thing. So I don't know how many books they'll end up being. We printed 200, and we printed them in a really simplistic form. I just basically wanted to throw them out. Because of Barbara Schlossen, the German girl, because she didn't meet her survivor or her righteous Gentile. She just studied her on the internet and fell in love with her. And then another girl came along, and she's from Eldridge. She wrote about the woman who ran the Warsaw Zoo. She didn't meet that woman either. And so for these kids, when they're connecting with this period of history, and it's not every student, but it's the kids that connect, it's becoming very real to them without meeting the survivors. So I think we can have some more projects, definitely, where the survivors come in and meet. And we can also have some projects where they just research a survivor or a Gentile or even a liberator of a camp. They are in all the schools in Rock Island County. You should be able to find them in the Sherrard School District. You should be able to find them in the libraries in the county. Yeah. Absolutely. You can go to my website. There's some little bookmarks up here on the piano, and you can pick one of those up and go to the website if you're interested. Actually, there is a student right now at Sherrard High School, Alex Pinkerton. Do you know her? She is writing about a survivor named, Lori? Aaron Elster. He is one of the gentlemen who helped create the Skokie Museum. That museum in Skokie is well worth visiting if you're ever up in the Chicago area and want to go up to it. And she went and met Aaron, and she's writing his story right now. So you might want to talk to her about it at school. Lori is working with me on the project, and she's like the writing coach. So if you're interested in things like that and you want to become a young author, I think it's a powerful thing. I really do. So, and now I've started civil rights stories too. A professor from St. Ambrose came to me and said that there were some powerful stories right here in the Quad Cities. The first ones who stepped up for their rights, and those people are passing away as well. So I'm going to have some writing projects with some of the inner city schools, getting some kids to be creative and tell those stories, because it's important that we remember. Right? Anything else? Actually, there's a book called Yanina Ballerina, and her dad was a Catholic. Yanina was in ballet school, a very famous Russian ballet school, and she was young. I think she was like 10, but she was pretty good size for her age. And her dad called her home very suddenly, and he said, "We are going to help the Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto, and if we are caught, we will lose our lives, possibly. And if we are caught, I want to be together. I don't want you over here and here." And they were wealthy, so their kids were scattered around. And so they did. They began to give aid. They gave food, water, just basics. And I remember very clearly when the Nazis came and kicked in the door to her house and took her father away and were beating him in their front yard. And the mom was taken and the children, and she felt like it was a shed. And they were forced to dig trenches. And those trenches, of course, they were going to line them up and shoot them. And most of her family perished that way. She did not die. She just fell into the trench, so she was able to climb out later in the evening. Sent to a camp. And she didn't have a very easy life. As a matter of fact, she had miracle after miracle saved her life. But she was, right before Hitler knew he was about to lose the war, so he started to increase the killing in the camps. And so she was shot when the Russians came and liberated. So she was very excited to see them, to say the least. And she said she remembers. She had a picture that pictures they blow up and kind of sit in front of the door when you go in to hear a speaker. And they were side by side. A picture of her before the war. You could tell she was very wealthy, very beautiful dress, curly hair with ribbons, and gorgeous little girl. And then right next to it was a very sad little girl, skin and bones, sitting in rags. And they were the same little girl just a couple years later. So, yep. And there's a website. So, got to have a website, right? So, that's it. Thank you.